US war with China megatrend. If you've been following my analysis over the past 5 years, then you will know that I expect a war with China as being inevitable, with many flashpoints for a hot war, likely culminating in the nuking of the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. This simulation covers what is most probable outcome if China launched an all-out assault to seize Taiwan, which they often remind us that they are going to do, and the US chose to intervene with determined force, i.e. its 7th Fleet that comprises 2 aircraft carriers and about 70 ships to deter such an attack. So who would win such an engagement of largely naval forces on an epic scale? Firstly, I would see such a US deployment as a huge miscalculation in that any deployment of the US 7th Fleet would not deter a Chinese armada from attacking, due to the fact that once Emperor Ping commits to war, then he would have no choice but to carry through with it at all costs. Otherwise he'll be a goner, dead within days, which is the nature of dictatorships. Everyone fears the strongman dictator, but as soon as he's seen as being weak, then that dictator is not going to be long for this world. So if the US miscalculates and takes the deterrence route, then they will likely deploy the 7th Fleet and likely also a 3rd carrier group, so as to try and convince the Chinese not to attack given the heavy price they will pay. So here is my best simulation of how things could play out in the Taiwan Strait as China commits itself to take Taiwan at all costs and US deterrence bluff is called. Firstly, in this battle, aircraft are largely going to be a sideshow, where the bulk of the battle will take place with a launch of tens of thousands of missiles at each of the ships and aircraft, where the advantage to the US will be its aircraft carriers and to China will be its numerical superiority, including some 50 submarines that will be tasked with sinking those 2 or 3 US carriers. Air power will more likely be tasked with intercepting the thousands of missiles when attacking one another in time waste, rather than attacking one another in time wasting dogfights. There's just not going to be much time for any of that, not given that it's only an 80-mile stretch, the Taiwan Strait. China will likely deploy a lot of aging aircraft as flat cover for US planes and missiles. So ships, submarines and aircraft will launch their missiles at one another, where the advantage will be to the Chinese given numerical superiority in destroyers, frigates and corvettes, bearing down fire on the carrier groups. So we will see a lot of planes getting shot down at the early stage of the war as the missiles fly to their intended targets, with planes trying to intercept, which basically means that the US will sustain heavy damage early in the war. Well, both sides will. The US carriers will soon be put on the defensive as their escort vessels are disabled or otherwise occupied. Thus, rather than attacking, will be defending against missiles and submarine torpedo attacks. It is highly likely that the US will lose 2 carriers and all of the 7th Fleet. Basically, all of the 7th Fleet will be gone, which will make the US panic and seek to save that 3rd carrier from being damaged or even destroyed by withdrawing it from the battlefield. I don't think this battle is going to last very long, with many US ships sunk within the first couple of hours of war breaking out. Chinese aircraft will be tasked with landing or airdropping troops on Taiwan, which will send the message to the Taiwanese government to surrender, as the US will have been defeated. After both sides have exhausted their missile stocks, then it will be down to firing high caliber shells at each other at close range to attempt to finish one another off. That and waves of torpedoes heading for US ships. US escort ships will be tasked with intercepting Chinese ships and submarines so as to allow the remaining aircraft carrier to escape. That's one of three. Meanwhile, Chinese planes will have made it to Taiwan, perhaps not landing as in this simulation, but nevertheless taking up positions on the ground that would likely prompt the Taiwanese government to surrender, all whilst the remaining US ships in the wave of Chinese armada are destroyed. So, this is why I don't think the US will deploy any naval forces in defense of Taiwan, because they'll all be destroyed. Instead, what is most likely to happen is that Taiwan will surrender in the face of a Chinese armada heading for it, given that the US will only offer a token defense of perhaps a few dozen planes and a few thousand missiles, with its fleets of aircraft carriers kept well out of harm's way. Strategically, the best action for the US will be to either destroy or seize the Spratly Islands, with its subs tasked with destroying China's two, soon to be three aircraft carriers that will likely be kept at a safe distance from the Chinese battlefield. So the US will probably see a Chinese attack on Taiwan to its strategic advantage, allowing the US to box China in more firmly, left without its carriers or artificial island bases at little cost to the US 7th Fleet, whilst Emperor Ping will claim victory in having succeeded in taking Taiwan, who will likely surrender without much resistance, given that if they do resist, China would rain down tens of thousands of missiles onto Taiwan. They would wipe it. It would be too much damage. As for when China will attack Taiwan, well, my forecast as of June 2020 is for the war with China to occur during 2028, which means it should not be imminent, i.e. within the next few years, but you never know, as it is an ever-growing risk with each passing day. Stock market FOMO hit September brick wall. Dow 2021 trend forecast current state. My latest comprehensive analysis of the stock market has just been posted to Patreon. A full spectrum analysis that concludes in a detailed trend forecast into the end of 2021 and then continues all the way into 2022 with indications for what to expect even for the remainder of 2022. Analysis that had me dig deep to clear the mists of time, all the way to deep analysis of the seasonal trends on a scale that you will not see anywhere else. From the usual seasonal analysis that's expanded on multiple time frames to the new short-term seasonal trend and the presidential cycle, best time of year to invest in stocks, and a 2022 seasonal investing pattern, and then putting it all together into a final stock market trend forecast, and then coverage of AI stocks and my buying plan, as well as the high-risk stocks portfolio, and then we take a look at Afghanistan, China. The comprehensive analysis that took me a good, two weeks to do this analysis. Whilst my very latest analysis is a silver price trend forecast from October 2021 to May 2022, and a lot more than that, including the risks of Chernobyl and more, as well as covering the stocks, AI stocks portfolio, all first made available to patrons just the other day. And again, for immediate first access to all of my analysis and trend forecasts, do consider becoming a patron by supporting my work for just $3 per month, due to increase to $4. Lock it in now. And here's the schedule of my forthcoming analysis. Silver price trend forecast, stock market trend forecast for September to December, how to get rich, which is 90% complete. This is patrons, exclusive to patrons. It's taken me a good 6-7 months, more now, 8 months of hard work on this, and it's no BS, hardcore, telling you exactly how to get rich. Well, what I've learned from my 35-year career in trading, investing, and in business, or what it takes. Straight to the point rules, no BS, no filler, just hardcore. Then we have a UK price trend focus, and I'll update my US house prices and a quick look at Canada and the US dollar and British pound analysis, and finally gold, which I'm not really interested in, but patrons asked for it, so I will look at gold. Silver first and then gold. Silver, since cryptos, I've gone off silver and gold. I have positions in them, but not significant. So, again, for immediate first access to all of my analysis and trend forecasts, then do consider becoming a patron by supporting my work for just $3 per month. That is soon set to increase to $4. That's not much. I'm seriously underpricing myself. Some patrons say I should be charging 100 times. The quality of analysis you're getting is worth 100 times what I'm charging for it. But you have to remember that I'm coming from the vantage point of giving my analysis away for free, which I did for 15 years on the Market Oracle website. 15 years. And I was only forced to go to patrons because everybody was ripping me off, copying everything, and trying to deal with all these thieves was like playing that, hitting the thing on the head and another one pops up. It's point I just gave up. I go, alright, I'll try Patreon. If this doesn't work, then I'm gonna stop publishing my analysis. I'm just gonna trade and invest. But Patreon seems to be working. It's, I'm actually capitalizing on my investment. Remember, I am a capitalist, I'm not a communist. So I have to capitalize on what I give out, so I'm not going to do it. So the Market Oracle website runs at a loss because everybody's ripped it off. There's no ad revenues and whatnot. So that was the way I capitalized on it before. And now I'm capitalizing it through Patreon to some limited degree. At least it covers the cost for Market Oracle and other online activities. So that's good. Anyway, enough of this waffling. See you in the next video, and do consider becoming a patron as we defend ourselves, protect ourselves from the rampant money printing inflation by the central banks. Insane money printing as though it's not going to feed through into wage and price inflation. Big inflation is coming, as I've been flagging for, well, over 6 months. It's more like a year now. And that's why I was saying last year, if you're thinking of buying big ticket items, do it now before the price hikes, which have transpired. You know, I bought a Culture K7 for £340. Current price on Amazon is, was it £565, and similar for lots of other tech items I bought. For instance, the components in my PC that I ordered in January and got delivered in March was £3,100. Current price of the components is over £4,000. Crazy, the inflation is here, and it is accelerating regardless of what the indices say. So protect yourselves by investing in assets that are leveraged to inflation, and AI tech stocks are leveraged to inflation and are about to get discounted. So do subscribe to my YouTube channel for such analysis, and do consider becoming a patron.